and Paris again dominates most international media. Let's show you a picture of the French President François Hollande. He is flanked here by his ministers, also students. This picture taken at the Sorbonne University in Paris. It takes up the whole of the Independence front page. They were observing a minute's silence in memory of the victims of Friday's attacks.
The business section of the International New York Times asks the question of what the impact will be of those attacks on the French capital's retail and tourism sectors, especially in the run-up to Christmas.
Marriott International is to buy Starwood Hotels. It's a $12.2 billion deal. It will create the world's biggest hotel company. This is in China Daily. It'll give Marriott a portfolio of over 1 million hotel rooms.
The Japan Times talks about the fact that the sluggish business environment and concerns over China's economy has caused the country to fall into its second recession since Prime Minister Shinzo Abe took office in 2012.
Good news for coffee drinkers in the Times. It says for people who drink 3 or more cups a day are 15% less likely to die an early death than non-drinkers. This quotes an American research study which suggests that bioactive chemicals in coffee can help protect against diabetes, dementia and cardiovascular disease. But all is part of a balanced diet, of course. AMRITA Sen is here, oil analyst at Energy Aspects. You take 1 or 2 of these individual health stories and you think that, okay, if I eat butter, I'll live until I'm 200.
Yeah, absolutely.
What, the international angle on the French attacks or the domestic angle? What we'd like to start with?
I mean, honestly, obviously what happened, I mean, we've been talking about this for the last 3 days. And I think it's interesting because the next stage, and like the President Hollande said, is that, he vows to destroy ISIS. I'm not personally sure that's the right, solution at the moment. But again, equally other leaders have come out and said Obama's not going to put any more ground troops. So again, this is just going to continue.
But actually, your opinion is backed up by Ban Ki-moon, no less. The UN Secretary General said a few days ago, he said, look, let's end this conflict, let's find a political solution. And yet other people, they say that actually you can't negotiate with people who carry out atrocities like this. It's not possible.
I get where they're coming from, but this is becoming a tit for tat at the moment. I mean, how many more bombings are you going to carry out in Syria? Then you're going to get more bombings across Europe. I mean, this has been Paris. I'm pretty sure there's going to be other targets if this just continues. And then what's the end game?
There's a lot of different analysis, right? One of the divergent analyses is that is what you've just picked up on, how best to respond. The other one is looking about radicalization, about whether this threat has actually come from abroad. Sure, it originates from abroad, but some newspapers, media, are looking also at the sociological point of view, because if most of these terror attacks are perpetrated by homegrown people, that could be a social issue.
Oh, hugely.
And an ideological one, not one of necessarily terrorism as a tactic in itself, but as a manifestation of those issues.
Alienation, which is a big part of what goes on in France, and we've seen that before as well. And yeah, I mean, it is about social integration, because it is a very global economy, and just generally even Europe, there is a lot of migration. I think it's extremely important to make sure that everybody feels a part of the country, of the process, rather than feeling alienated.
Yes, of course, the migration issue is the big one. 20 or more states in the United States have said they don't want any more Syrians. And Paris? It's one of the most popular destinations in the world.
It is. It's a city that thrives on its tourism industry. In fact, 7% of the GDP growth in France is just purely tourism. It's one of the most popular places to go. This article centres on Paris, the city, and how it might be impacted by this. It talks about the fact that Champs-Élysées at this time of year should be absolutely buzzing. And of course, for obvious reasons, it's not like that at all right now. The question is, beyond this week and beyond the next few weeks, where things will be. Many argue that actually, if you look at Madrid, if you look at London, if you look at New York,
even Mumbai for that matter,
and Mumbai, of course, cities
has
do bounce back quite quickly because there's this sort of patriotism that kicks in. There's this sort of wanting to support companies, local businesses, that kind of feeling. What's your thoughts?
I mean, I get what they're saying, and I mean, I'll give you an example. A colleague of mine from work was supposed to go to Paris this weekend on a long weekend, and he cancelled. And yeah, I mean, initially when I spoke to him, he was like, no, I want to go just to prove that, life should continue. But yeah, in the grand scheme of things, again, safety, I think people are going to be more concerned this time around because of what we were just talking about, what Adnan was also saying. A lot of this is homegrown. Like yesterday, they heard shots and people were just running across the streets. I think now there is a sense of fear And even just today and yesterday, walking around the streets of London, taxi drivers are talking about it. And I think there is a sense of fear, across, not just in Paris, even other parts of Europe, just because of this element of surprise. They just don't know where it's even coming from, not necessarily from Syria, but just homegrown people.
This article in the International New York Times says that shares of Air France KLM fell about 6%. Some stock of the French group Accor Hotel closed down 5%. So it's had a business impact in terms
I mean,
of the stocks.
it's the tourism stocks, but just to say the overall stock market in France, the CAC 40 only closed down by about 3 points
3%,
lower.
yeah.
It was not even, it was 0.08
0.08, okay,
of a percent at the close. It was down over 1% at the beginning of the day in the first sort of 45 minutes, but then those losses were pretty parried fairly quickly. And the question is about, as you say, it's about confidence, isn't it? It's about people's perceptions of things, because that drives their activity, that drives their consumer behaviour.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this year you do get sales down. I think this article also talks about a few key shops just saying we're just hoping to be flat, not make any profit this year. I think that's probably
realistic. You mean that's their highest expectation?
Highest expectation at the moment. And I think the tourism committee is saying that they're going to do some kind of special conference to boost confidence, but I think it's going to be hard.
But they've got the climate change event starting on the 30th of November.
Well, they've got Euro 2016 next year.
Well, exactly, and 30th of November, Paris will be getting ready to host that. So
high security indeed. More than 1 million hotel rooms controlled by one company. Massive, $12.2 billion.
Now we need to get the stats right. 1.1 million hotel rooms.
I said more than 1 million, didn't I?
Yeah, but the intercontinental hotels, if they're watching us, they want us to be precise about this, because it's slightly more than them. That's the issue.
Oh, I see. I thought
they're now the world's biggest.
They are.
These two together.
I'm sure Hilton's not going to be thrilled about this. They're the second largest, aren't they? All I'll say is that if it makes my hotel rooms nicer and better, I'm all for it. I mean, they are talking
a lot of time in hotels, don't you?
I do, but they are talking about more efficiencies, and I think Starwood's been the talk of them being bought out has been there all through this year. There were other groups that were talking about it as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure.
The question is bigger better?
Well, you know what? For me, it's about the mattress.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I care about.
10, 15 years. A lot of these chains, like Marriott and Intercon and whatever they are, Hilton, they've been getting their own mattresses made, which actually guests really notice a significant difference.
I mean, which is why, I mean, Starwood's been trading at a discount to its peers because apparently it doesn't have restaurants and stuff associated with it. I don't care. I need a gym and a good mattress. That's all I care about.
A good pillow.
Okay.
As well.
Coffee, we'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about the Japan Times to start with, and no surprise at all that on their front page today they'll have the news that they're back in recession, a technical recession, 2 quarters of negative growth. How much a blow is this to Shinzo Abe? Because everybody's saying, oh, Abenomics is not working. Your thoughts?
I mean, I think that's the problem at the moment. The criticism is solely on him. The Abenomics hasn't worked. I'm not surprised given the slowdown in China. I think this is going to be a trend that we see across a lot of Asian economies, even potentially Germany. It's not just, China's slowdown goes beyond China because a lot of economies around Southeast Asia have been made and built to support a manufacturing China, right? It's the steels and the cements and the cars. When China slows down, or rather China changes to more consumer-led, these economies also have to change. So I think Japan is talking about the right stuff. I think they're talking about doing more for the farmers, getting more consumers up and running.
I mean, when you think about kind of some of the policies he's implemented, one of them was to significantly weaken the value of the yen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now, imagine if he didn't do that.
Oh gosh,
where we would be now.
I mean, and also there are corporate profits.
To point the finger,
no, absolutely. And corporate profits are at a record high. It's just that I don't think people are reinvesting a lot of the profit that they're making. Probably will take a little bit of time. But I think what he has done is, again, I still support his measures.
Now, I don't like coffee. I drink too much tea, I'm sure, and I'd hate to think what that's doing to my body.
Coffee?
I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
No way. Well, how can you say you don't like it then?
Well, you didn't.
I don't like the smell. I don't like the smell. Never liked it.
I've never drank a cup
No,
either.
and I don't drink tea either. I drink hot water.
And you say you're an Indian?
I do, but I just drink water. I'm just happy with water. So
What about you? Because
I drink both.
You drink both?
Yeah. I hardly drink any alcohol, but lots of tea and coffee. But tell us about this research.
Honestly, okay, this has gone not just 1 cup of coffee. What, 3 cups of coffee means you live 15% longer, or your chances of death are 15% lower, or something to that
Yeah.
effect. Sure, but I mean, I've always told my friends that, oh, this is a bad thing you're doing, a lot of caffeine is bad for you. But each of these studies comes out with contradictory stuff.
Yeah.
Some say caffeine are bad, some say it's good, some
I
say
think
wine's
the answer
great.
is there's a lot of caffeine in chocolate, isn't there?
There is.
There some.
Just
Yeah.
eat lots of chocolate instead.
Instead, yeah.
Yeah, you can drink some
I think I agree
carbonated
with,
drinks.
No, I agree with you. Everything within a balanced diet scheme.
Amrita, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure. Thank
Always
you.
a great pleasure. Bye-bye.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.